my friends, and welcome to another fantastic Monday Reload. From very high above all the puerile and insipid forms of Wyoming mainstream media, this is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Monday. In Cheyenne, it is the second full week of appropriations meetings. Non-stop entertainment, I can assure you. To tell you the truth, I have no idea how they sit through 8 hours, day in, day out, of every agency you could possibly imagine, trying to explain to them while what they do is the most important thing in Wyoming. Bureaucrat after bureaucrat, justifying the existence of their position and just hoping to God that they're not the agency that's going to get cut. While I don't recommend sitting through every nauseating minute of every appropriations meeting, there are some bright spots, or at least some that you should pay attention to. On second thought, bright is not the word I should use to describe all of them. But there again, when you're in the business that I am, any tremendous soundbite is a bright spot. And there's one that almost very nearly slipped through my fingers. Anytime the governor is speaking, though I try to avoid this, my brain slips into Charlie Brown mode. Wah, 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 wah. I can't help it. When you've sat through as many nauseating State of the State addresses, it just happens. It'll happen to you too if you try to watch too many of them. And no, I'm not making any excuses. I'm just telling you what happens. Yeah, but anyway, there was one comment by the governor that did slip through my fingers. So we're going to talk about that this morning, and probably more accurately, I'm going to tell you how he got to the decision that he made to make the comment that he did in front of the Appropriations Committee. First, a couple of program notes. If you haven't signed up for the Outrider yet, that's the official newsletter of Cowboy State Politics, you're really missing out. It gives you and I another way to communicate. And maybe you have a friend that just really isn't into listening to podcasts. For the life of me, I have no idea what's wrong with those people. But there are some that would just prefer to read rather than listen. The Outrider is a brief discussion of everything that happened in the Cowboy State Politics universe that week. I clue you in on what I think is the big story that week and point you in the direction of a couple of others. So anyway, it's a great resource, and I'm so glad that I finally started it. So go to the website, put in your email address, sign up, and then forward it to all your friends and neighbors who may not already be listening to the program. You'll get the Outrider every Thursday morning. Secondly, it is the Christmas season, and so our schedule may be a little herky-jerky until we get past Christmas. After all, there may be some exclusive parties that I've been invited to that are going to prevent me from doing Okay, no, not really. That's not actually a thing. But the truth is, there are a couple of episodes that I'm just not going to be able to pull off. And most of this relates to the live program. I'm still going to do my best to make sure you have a podcast episode every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. I'm pretty sure that I can pull that part off. So what did Gordon say in Appropriations last Monday? As you know, nearly every single time Mark Gordon has a chance to talk in public, he has to slip in climate change in there somewhere. Our governor is nothing if not a true believer in that hoax. He's been to Harvard. He's been on the now roundly discredited news program 60 Minutes, standing in the House of Representatives and writing drivel in the cow pie. He doesn't miss a beat talking about climate change, except for this time. Not an overt single reference this time, at least as far as I could tell. That, in and of itself, is noteworthy, at least it is to the more astute observers of our governor's behavior. And the entire thing would have gone completely unnoticed had it not been for a question from one of the conservatives on the Appropriations Committee. Before I give you the question, let's take a quick trip down climate change memory lane with Mark Gordon. There's a piece of garbage op-ed in the cow pie from 2022 on June 11th entitled, The energy crisis of tomorrow can be averted today, in which our good governor said, and I quote, "As we grapple with the twin-headed monster of energy security and climate change, we must be strategic." Governor Gordon has long believed that climate change is a thing, and I suppose that during this Christmas season we ought not fault him for his misguided theocratic beliefs. And make no mistake, belief in climate change is a form of religion. I would like to label it a theory. At the very least, we could accept that. But its adherents, that's adherents with a T, they almost never exhibit any sort of scientific acumen. And they deny observable and measurable facts. And so we can't really put them in the same circle as science. Because, it's clearly not. Then the governor went to Harvard. Not to study, but to talk. After all, we wouldn't want to confuse the governor's doctrine with academic rigor. Here's one of the things he said while grasping a lump of coal. I'm not kidding about that last part. He did have a chunk of Powder River Basin coal with him on this trip. Before I play this next soundbite for you, let's get a word in from our sponsors. Today's edition of Cowboy State Politics is brought to you by the Buffalo Wool Company. While wearing that Santa suit and pretending to be the jolly fat man from the North Pole, you need to make sure that your feet stay nice and warm. It's uncomfortable enough to dress in red and have a big white fake beard on. You definitely don't want to have uncomfortable feet while you're doing it. The best socks that I have ever worn are made by the Buffalo Wool Company. They're comfortable for everyday wear, and if you have to go outside in the nasty Wyoming weather, they'll keep your feet warm and dry better than any other sock you've ever tried. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Monday Reload is also brought to you by Morton Buildings. They're the experts in metal building construction. Doesn't matter what you've got in mind, whether it's a garage or a barn or a roping arena or maybe even a giant warehouse for your business. Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings can do all of them. Give them a call. Their phone number is 307-674-2532, or you can check them out at their website, mortonbuildings.com. Don't forget to subscribe and follow the program. You can do that at the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. And while you're there, again, don't forget to subscribe to The Outrider, the official newsletter of Cowboy State Politics. And now, back to the program. This soundbite has been roundly criticized, and the governor has, at the very least, been pilloried for saying it.
And I know what's happening on the environmental side. We've had several glaciers that have been delisted as glaciers in the West. It is clear that we have a warming climate. It is clear that carbon dioxide is a major contributor to that challenge. There's an urgency to addressing this issue. And it isn't going to be solved only by turning off fossil fuels. So we've looked at, for Wyoming in particular, where we derive quite a bit of our revenue from fossil fuels, how do we prepare ourselves for making sure that we address carbon dioxide as a constituent in the atmosphere, so direct air capture, carbon capture and sequestration, geologic sequestration, all of these things.
Nothing about climate change is clear. We do not have a warming climate, and carbon dioxide is not a contributor to it, even if we did have a problem with global warming. And then he lit the hair on fire of everybody, almost everybody in the cowboy state when he said this.
So in the case of, one of the biggest issues, I think, for the nation, and one that I'm very proud of for Wyoming, is that we are the first state that has said we're going to be carbon negative.
We didn't decide that. You decided that, Governor. Then, in 2023, he said this on 60 Minutes.
There are a lot of naysayers who say that this is a pipe dream. Mm-hmm. It'll never happen. What do you say to them? How do you convince them?
I say we're trying it. Then I know people will say, well, you're just trying to extend the life of the coal mines. I am. But I'm also trying to do that in a way that is going to do more for climate solutions than simply standing up a whole bunch of wind farms or sending up a whole bunch of solar is.
With his all-of-the-above approach, Mark Gordon is trying to put every kind of energy project on a fast track.
Incomprehensible. Extend the life of the coal mine? That doesn't make any sense. The only way you could possibly do that would be to put more coal in the ground. It is true, however, if you restricted the amount of coal that could be dug out of the ground, that, I guess, in effect, would extend the life of the coal mine because it would take you longer to dig the same amount of coal that you should have been digging in the first place. Which is what he attempted to do when he signed House Bill 200 from 2020. That would have mandated that energy producers either retrofit coal-fired power plants with carbon capture technology or sell them, aiming for a 20% low-carbon generation by 2030. Fortunately, a law passed last year, Senate File 42, extended that deadline to 2033. The law is still on the books, and if nothing is done, what Governor Gordon told 60 Minutes would come true in a couple of years. That he would restrict the amount of coal that could be produced out of this state by making it harder for coal-fired power plants to burn it. To replace that potential reduction in the production of coal, Governor Gordon has voted time and again while on the State Lands and Investment Board to greenlight just about any wind or solar project that comes his way. And then, last Monday in Appropriations, this question was asked of him.
You've spoken many times over the last couple of years about an all-in or all of the above energy policy. And I would just ask that you describe for us where you think, what that looks like over the next 5 to 10 years for Wyoming, the balance between the traditional energy that we've enjoyed for so long, and what do you see on the horizon?
Given the governor's track record that I just laid out for you, answering a question like this ought to be no problem for him. One potential answer is exactly what he said at Harvard. But the governor has been catching a lot of flack from a couple of different directions. Secretary of State Chuck Gray has been very critical of the governor's decisions. And that's just one example. No doubt, one of the priorities going into the Appropriations Committee meeting would be for the governor to do no harm to his political agenda, because we're going into an election season and anybody that is tied to Gordon will also be tied to the governor's radical ideas about the climate. So mission number one is to not dig his hole any deeper. Now, I don't know if he accomplished that or not, but here's his answer to Representative Pendergraft. Get a load of this.
I think it's important that Wyoming be able to develop all of its resources. Now, I have talked about all of the above. That seems to be a national watchword at this point. I've kind of amended that to talk about best of all of the above so that we can look where it's appropriate for certain things to be and try to encourage those. Because I think Wyoming has the potential to have tremendous resources, most of which 12 times of which we export out of the state.
That's so much better. The best of all of the above. What the governor is admitting is all of this is politics. What sounds the best? The so-called all-of-the-above energy strategy has become a bit of a political hot potato for him. And so we can't say that anymore, so let's change it a little bit so that it sounds better and we won't tick off half the state. It's all politics, and the governor admitted it.
You talked about all of the above. That seems to be a national watchword at this point.
It has. A watchword for crazy green scams. Thank goodness. We're almost in the last year of the governor's lame duck administration. I don't know that we could take another 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or however many years all of his supporters want him to remain in office. That, my friends, is a topic for another day. There are actually people in this state that think it's possible and wise to let the governor have a third term. I can't imagine what he would do with another 4 years. It would absolutely be a train wreck. Well, anyway, my friends, that'll about do it for today's installment of Monday Reload. Have a good week, and we'll talk again on Wednesday. But for now, from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio, I'm David Iverson, and this is the one and only Cowboy State Politics.